So the elevator story. We're staying at the Bellagio in Las Vegas. And if you've stayed at those kind of casinos, you'll know that the elevators have obviously the rows of numbers. And then for the casino, which is the first floor, there's a horizontal light that you press to get to the casino. So I get on the elevator on the 11th floor, and there's a guy standing there, and he looks at me and says, "Casino?" I said, "No, library." And he doesn't even smile. And I said, "Well, that's kind of a funny bit, and I'm going to stay with it." I said, "Yeah, I've got to take my bookie back. I've had him a couple of weeks, and it's going to expire." Nothing. Now I'm not going to give up on this guy. And I said, "Yeah, the fine is 25 cents a day, and I don't want to get hit with that. So I got to bring him back." We reach the first floor. The door opens, and I say, "Do you speak English?" He goes, "Yeah," and walks off. Tough crowd. The tattoo story. So a couple years ago, my daughter, Kate, who is a huge Kobe Bryant fan, calls me and gives me this Kobe Bryant quote and said, "Would you please write this out in cursive?" Now, I haven't written cursive since I was 9 years old because I print everything, so people can read it, obviously. So I write it out, and the next thing I know, she sends me a photograph of a tattoo that she got on her side with my writing of the Kobe Bryant quote. Fast forward to earlier this year. I should preface this by saying, when I started doing Raising the Standards in Carmel, my radio program, my theme song has always been Take the A Train. So my business card had the sheet music, the first 8 bars at the top of the card. So my son Kennedy calls me and says, "Hey, send me one of those cards." I said, "Sure." So I send him a card, and the next thing I know is he sends me a photograph of a tattoo on his upper back with the beginning of Take the A Train. And I called him and I said, "Wow, I wish I'd known that you were going to make a tattoo out of this." He says, "Why is that?" I said, "Well, because it isn't the A Train." He said, "What do you mean? What is it?" I said, "It's I Feel Pretty from West Side Story." He wasn't happy. February 27th, 1933, the burning of the Reichstag. November 9th through 10th, 1938, Kristallnacht. January 6th, 2021, attempted coup. Lower the flags and say a prayer of thanks that the Republic survived. For to quote Joni Mitchell, "You don't know what you've got until it's gone." A few thoughts about the real heart of New Orleans. As I have no doubt made painfully clear in recent days, this town is all about freedom. The freedom to enjoy great food, drink, and music 24/7. I do highly suggest, however, that while you're here, you take a moment to reflect on how those freedoms came to be and how we almost lost them. The National World War II Museum is, I believe, hallowed ground in the midst of seemingly endless revelry. It calls to you and demands your attention. It forces one to consider how life might have been different were it not for our mothers and fathers, our grandparents, and so many of those who came before us, folks in a black and white world who answered the call. Don't leave without a visit to this shrine. Of course, you're free not to go. Visit and find out why. Happy Fat Tuesday. While wearing a mask on Mardi Gras strikes me as a touch redundant, I do suggest that you take a moment to celebrate this evening because Lent begins tomorrow. Lent, the worldwide season of giving up. Everyone should give up something, drinking, smoking, pasta, or donuts. Unless, of course, you're in Ukraine. You folks get a pass. Never give up. You are today's Minutemen, and Kiev is your Valley Forge. Today, we celebrate your courage. While the calendar indicates that spring arrived last month, it does in fact begin today. Baseball is back, hope has returned, and for the moment, Mudville is once again filled with joy. In our sundown perambulations of late, through the outer parts of Brooklyn, we have observed several parties of youngsters playing base, a certain game of ball. Let us go forth a while and get better air in our lungs. Let us leave our closed rooms. The game of ball is glorious. Walt Whitman, 1846. While we must never forget, we must always remember that evil continues to thrive, freedom continues to be threatened, and resolve continues to be required. Annie was wrong. The sun won't come up tomorrow. Not for 19 children. No matter how many million-bottom dollars we bet, there won't be sun. Tonight, the angels sleep in cold morgues, on metal tables. No parents to tuck them in. No, don't let the bed bugs bite. Just the first of endless nights. As near as I can figure, when it comes to birthdays, there are two types of folks. Those who embrace aging and those who deny it. I clearly fall into the former. I turned 70 today, and I've been on a pretty good run. I have the love of a wonderful family and more close friends than a person deserves. I've met Sinatra, seen Bobby Kennedy, interviewed Sammy Davis, and dined with Mose Allison. And I'm only 70. I've spent 50 years in broadcasting, over 40 years running a golf tournament, and produced more than 200 concerts. And I'm only 70. I've rehabbed and relapsed, fallen down and gotten back up, but like Sir Elton, I'm still standing, and I'm only 70. So bring on the dawn and turn the page. Tomorrow begins today. Happy Father's Day. If you're a dad, you richly deserve a day in your honor. Enjoy this one, and remember it's also Juneteenth. What many fathers before us experienced was anything but a holiday. Tiny steps, even in the right direction, continue to be too small. My mother was born in Coventry and lived through the horrendous Nazi bombing. Became a war bride and never really learned to cook. She did, however, install in me the love of the monarchy and of the Queen. She was elegant and dignified. Fact is, elegance and dignity in leadership are in short supply as of late. The pages continue to turn. This chapter is particularly sad to see come to an end. Rest in peace, Mum. The morning after, having spent 2.5 hours with the piano man last evening, it's difficult not to reflect on the days when I too wore a younger man's clothes. In a week when we lost the Queen, in a summer when I said goodbye to jazz on the Plaz, a night of remarkable music. Standing shoulder to shoulder with strangers, harmonizing to 50 years of memories, maskless and not wary of coughs and social distancing. There was something quite profound about being in the middle of a 17,000 person sing-along that was wonderfully moving. He was right. We all are sharing a drink of loneliness, but it's better than drinking alone. One of my favorite memories from the 20 years which I produced Jazz on the Plaz was the time that Ramsey Lewis admonished the audience for talking while these men played. Something I'd been saying for years. We'd kept in touch over the years, and he was kind enough to record a promo for my radio program, Raising the Standards. Today, may I suggest that we all observe yet another silent moment to honor a jazz legend. Rather than be sad that he's gone, let's be thankful that he was here. See you on the other side, my friend. It happened again. I asked the TSA guy if I were 75, could I leave my shoes on? He said, sure. Jesus, doesn't anybody patronize anymore? Would it have killed him to say, really? I mean, really? The Geico story. Now, this is one of my favorite stories of the year. It is absolutely true. You can Google it and check it out. About 8 months ago in Missouri, this woman slept with a guy in his car. She subsequently caught a disease from sleeping together. So she went to Geico, which was his insurance agency, and sued. And she said, I will settle out of court for $1 million. They said, "You're out of your mind. Let's go to court." Well, it went to arbitration, and she got $4.2 million. And the only sad thing was, had he lasted another 15 minutes, she would have saved 15%. The Sinatra story. Now, last year, you may remember for the Epistle, we did the Elvis story and seeing him in Lake Tahoe. Well, the lovely and talented Mrs. Jacobi and I would fly up to Lake Tahoe 3 or 4 times a year, ostensibly to see Sinatra. One night, we're up there for the cocktail show. As we're getting through the main door, I tip the maitre d' $20. He takes us to the front row, seats us, and says to me, "Here's your $20 back. I think you need it more than I do." Well, after the show, we're sitting in the Hideaway Bar at Harrah's. In the corner is Sinatra, Pat Henry, and a couple of bodyguards. Now, Mary's uncle is a gentleman named Norman Paris, who used to play for Frank at the Copa. Norman was married to Dorothy Loudon from Annie. So I write on a cocktail napkin, "Would it be all right if Norman Paris's niece came over to say hello?" And I said to the server, "Don't give it to him, give it to one of the bodyguards." So she goes over there, and this guy is like 7 feet tall, gets up, walking toward our table, and I said, "We're dead." And he comes over and says, "That's very nice of you not to interrupt. Come with me." Takes us over and introduces us to Frank. Frank looks at Mary and says, "You're a cute little thing." Now she's trying to slip him the room key as I'm standing there with my jaw dropped. He says hello to me, I shake his hand, and normally I'm really not overwhelmed by meeting people that much, but this was had me a bit out over my skis, and I think I said something clever like, "Great shoes, Frank." What I really wanted to say in retrospect was, why did you introduce Jack Kennedy to Giancana's girlfriend? That probably wouldn't have been a good move. Now that I'm 70, I can at last speak my mind. Obviously, I'm kidding. I've been pontificating since I was 9. So what does come with longevity? Are you any smarter? Hardly. More patient? I guess so. More reflective? You betcha. Having been there and done that, I now see America through glasses that are a good deal less rosy than when I was full of piss and vinegar rather than lisinopril and Flomax. Like many of you, I'm frightened for this country and for our Constitution. Oddly, it's not the Second Amendment which worries me, it's the First. Yelling fire in a crowded theater is no less dangerous than posting the big lie on social media platforms. Make no mistake, we are at war, and the enemy is misinformation. Requiring the truth is hardly censorship, it's just good sense. If there's a post and it's opinion or satire, say so. Apart from the Supreme Court, no one wants to take away your rights, just your wrongs. Finally, I really don't know if it's in the country's best interest that Trump, if indicted and found guilty, goes to jail. I do believe that it's in the best interest of democracy, however, that again, if indicted, he be tried. Simply put, enforce the laws or change them, but don't ignore them. In the end, the truth will keep us free. So I was in wardrobe and I realized I forgot to fill you in on the new jazz series, which I'm producing. It's called Jazz at the Ranch and will begin late next August on the campus of Rancho Cielo in the foothills of Salinas in association with the Monterey Jazz Festival and Yo Soul Youth Orchestra Salinas. I'm so proud to be involved with these folks and this school. They not only talk the talk, they walk the walk, and now they play the music as well. Promises to be quite an event. Stay tuned. As always, a huge thanks to my dear friend Kyle Chesser from Hands On Studio. I am running out of words to describe just how good he is and just how much his friendship means to me. Now go hug your partner, pet your children, kiss your pets, or something like that, and have yourself a great Hanukkah, a terrific Ramadan, a bitchin' Kwanzaa, and as always, have yourself a merry little Christmas.